And for 1 and 2, this is where we're going to be using the Pythagorean theorem. Does anybody remember what the Pythagorean theorem was? A squared plus C squared. And I said when you label your triangles, C is the most important because A and B can be flipped around and you still get the correct answer. A and B are the legs. Remember, the legs make the right angle. So this is a leg. This is a leg. Does anybody remember that fancy word for this side? It's C, but what's the fancy word for it? Hypotenuse. Your hypotenuse is C. It's always the longest side, and it's across from the 90-degree angle. So here I would label this one as C. It doesn't matter which one here I label A and B, just as long as you label it A or B. So now I'm going to substitute into the formula. 7.4 squared plus 7.5 squared has to equal C squared. So you use your handy dandy calculator. If anybody ever watched Blue's Clues. 7.4 squared. Yep. 54.76 plus 7.5 x squared. Yep. 56 plus 2, 5. And you add those together. So go ahead and add those together. 111.01. Now this is C squared. Don't forget the last step. What's the last step with these? You have to take the square root. So I'm going to open this up. I'm going to go to second square root 111.01 and then I press enter. Yep, and it'd be 10.5. And that would be the length of the hypotenuse. So let's label number 2. How am I going to label number 2? I always label C first. Which side length is C? 15.6 is C. These I could label A or B. It doesn't matter. I always like putting A with the smaller one. So I get 9.3 squared plus B squared has to equal 15.6 squared. So we're going to go ahead and do that with the calculator. 9.3 squared. Yep, 86.49. And then I have to do 15.6 squared. Or, yep. No. Because they are on opposite sides, what was that, 243.16? 36. Thank you. 3. Because they are on opposite sides of the equal sign, in this case, we do not add. We have to subtract the two numbers. So I'm going to subtract 86.49 from both sides. Okay, you subtract it because they are on opposite sides of the equal sign. On this one, they were on the same side of the equal sign, So you just add. For this one, since they're on opposite sides, you have to actually solve. So this cancels. B squared equals, what is it? And then what's the last step? You have to take the square root. And when you take the square root, what do you get? Okay, so 12.5. Okay, well, we're rounding to the nearest tenth, so it'd be 0.5. And, feet, I forgot to put feet here. Okay, let's talk about when I know when to add or subtract. So, put some notes on your review. You add when you're given the two legs. The two legs are the ones that make the right angle. You subtract when you're given a hypotenuse in a leg, because the hypotenuse always has to be the longest side. So if you would have added those, you would have had B being longer than the hypotenuse, which would not make sense. The hypotenuse is always the longest side. So always check your work and make sure your answer makes sense. The hypotenuse should always be the longest side. Any questions on Pythagorean theorem? Okay, so now we're going to do the converse of the Pythagorean theorem. Could I erase this? Oh, that's highlight. I'm going to erase this. Hopefully that's okay. I wish there was a faster way to erase this. I should just erase all. Oh, maybe. I select? Oh, well. Okay, let's go here. So, when C squared equals A squared plus B squared, it is a right triangle. If C squared is greater than A squared plus B squared, it's obtuse. If C squared is less than A squared plus B squared, it is acute. So we're going to call C the largest side, because I don't know if it's actually a right triangle or not until this is right. Right. It's acute, obtuse, or right. Okay. So which is your largest side right here? 13.6. And I'm going to square that. I don't know the comparison, so I'm just putting a box here until I can put either equal or greater than or less than. And then I'm going to put 11 squared plus 6.4 squared. So, $13.6 squared is 184.96. Over here, 11 squared plus 6.4 squared. You could actually just put it all in like that. Is 161.96. So this is bigger, right? It's like this. So which one would it be? This is obtuse. So that means this angle is going to be larger than 90 degrees. It could be like 92 degrees or 95 degrees. It may look close to 90, but it's going to be off a little bit. So over here, what's your largest side? 19.4. I'm going to square it. I'm going to check. Please put away. Are you using that as your phone? I mean, your calculator. Here's a calculator if you need it. You're welcome. So 19.4 squared, and then I'm going to put 13 squared plus 14.4 squared. And I'm going to check to see the relationship. 19.4 squared is 376.36. And then I'm going to check the sum of the squares of the other side. That would be 13 squared plus 14.4 squared. And that is exactly the same. So what type of triangle is this? It's a right triangle because it is equal. That's called the converse of the Pythagorean theorem. Any questions on that? Oh, I hate it that it does that. Any questions on that before I move on? Oh, sorry, I did a group me, and I hate it that they make us use this and then tell you guys not to use your phone. But I gotta just check. Okay, so this next one. This is the hinge theorem. The hinge theorem states that across from the smallest angle, opposite the smallest angle, will be the smallest side. Opposite the largest angle is going to be the largest side. Opposite the smallest angle will always be the smallest side length or shortest. Opposite the largest angle is always going to be the largest side. And remember that a side you have to label with 2 letters. You can't just give me 1 letter for a side length. Label with 2 letters. You wouldn't believe how many people get this one wrong just because they give me 1 letter. What did you say about the largest side? Is going to be opposite the largest angle. So right here, it's saying from shortest to longest. What do you all agree 34 degrees is your smallest angle? So here's my smallest angle. Opposite means straight across is going to be the shortest side. So what's the shortest side? KM. And then across from the middle one, 69 is, thank you, Jay. LK. You're going across. This is LK. Oh, wait. Yeah, LK. And then the largest side would be across from the 77, LM. Right? What happens if the 2 angles are equal? Let's say I had 77 and 77. That'd mean the 2 opposite sides are equal. Remember, that's an isosceles triangle. I would just put an and. Like if it was the little smallest, I would put like, or if it was the largest, I'd just put an and in between. I'm not going to give you one of those. I was just testing you. Okay. Order. Okay, the inverse of what we just did is also true. Oh, I did give you one. I just lied to you. I gave you one that they're the same. So good. I'll give you an example. But I think I checked on the test and I tried not to do that when I made the test. Okay, so across from the smallest sides are going to be the smallest angles. And across from the largest side is going to be the largest angle, or opposite. Now 14 and 14 are the same. That means the two smallest angles are going to be actually the same angle measure. So if here is SR, if I'm going across, that's angle T. And I'm just going to put an and sign, or you could just write out and. The other one that's going to be equal to it would be what? S. And then the largest angle is going to be angle R. You could also just put that these two are equal if you want to. And actually, it'd be congruent because I didn't put measure of. But. That's what I was looking for, because you did that the other day. Yeah. You could do it that way too. Yep. Okay. We played with sticks. Why did we play with sticks in my class? To make sure if they made triangles. And we came up with the theorem. What was the theorem? It's called the triangle inequality theorem. The two smaller sides. Correct. So when I add the two smaller sides together, it has to be larger than the third side. Now this one of the third sides are equal. So just use 7 and 12. And is 7 plus 12 greater than 12? Well, of course, right? 19 is greater than 12. So is this a yes or a no? Yes. This would be a yes. Oh. Ours says 9, 22, 11. Okay. So what is it? 9, 22, and 11. That's weird. Okay. So what are the two smallest sides? 9 and 11. So 9 plus 11 has to be greater than 22. And I get, is 20 greater than 22? No. So this does not make a triangle. This set does. This one does not. Right? Okay. Then we can get a range. What I find is when people get this wrong, they don't write the range correctly. Remember to put an X, and you're going to use two less than signs. The smallest one goes here, the largest one goes here. So here you just take, 12 minus 7, because you can't get a negative side length. So what's 12 minus 7? 5. And what's 12 plus 7? 19. So for the third side, it has to be in between 5 and 19. They can't be 5 and 19. They have to be a little bit, this one would have to be a little larger than 5. This one would have to be a little smaller than 19. So like 7, 8, 9, 18.5. All of those would work. But a 20 would not work. And 4 would not work. Okay, so let's do it again. Put an X in the inside, 2 less than. Take the bigger number and subtract it from the smaller so you don't get a negative number. What's 12 minus 10? 2. And now I'm just going to add them together. And then that's how you do those. So this would be the range right here. Bloop. Questions? We're all going to get good grades tomorrow? Tomorrow I'll probably do an exploration of special triangles before the test. That'll be for next week. We're going to look for patterns because Troy said last time to have the lesson before the test so that when people take the test, they can just leave and then no one feels rushed on taking their test. So once we do the exploration, then we'll do the test because of Troy. For those fast test takers, yes. No, this is the review. So I'm recording it so you can look it over tonight. I'll send it out to everybody and you have it. If you want a blank copy to just try it on your own, I can make some extra blank copies. I suggest to do that. Make sure you can do it by yourself because I have my math degree. It's all you guys that have to learn the math. Okay, what do you do when I'm looking for the angles to solve for x here? What am I going to do? What do I know about all the inside angles of a triangle? They should add up to 180. So x plus 68 plus x plus 78 plus 50 has to equal 180. And x plus x is 2x. You have to combine your like terms before you can start subtracting. So I have to add 68, I have to add 78, and I have to add 50. 68 plus 78, 78 plus 50. Yes, 196. Plus 196 has to equal 180. I'm going to subtract 196 from both sides. It's a negative 16. X can be negative, but the measure can't. And then I divide by 2. And I get x is equal to a negative 8. I am not done, though, because what did it ask up here? Angle A. So I have to substitute it back in to make, so always read your directions. Make sure you're answering all of it. So this would be negative 8 plus 68 is equal to what? 60. So angle A is equal to 60. Okay, so this one we just do the same way, right? X plus 49 plus x plus 62 plus 81 has to equal 180. I combine my like terms, 2x plus over 49 plus 62 plus 81 is equal to 192. Equal 180. I subtract 192. X, 2x equals negative 12. Divide by 2. Don't drop your negatives. X is equal to a negative 6. Here's A. Angle A, right, is equal to negative 6 plus 49. 43. Oh, yeah. Oh, my circle kind of went over it. Is there an undo? Oh, look at that. I didn't want to do that. I thought that was the undo. Oh, is that the undo? No, cancel. It's not. Doesn't have an undo. Okay, 13. Now this is called, oh, someone's knocking on the board. This is our exterior angle, right? So if this is our exterior angle, I need, here, Pooh, Pooh, we're on number 13. So what am I going to do with these two angles here? I'm going to add them together and set it equal to 104. But I'm going to go ahead and let you take a break because it's about 10:30, and that way Pooh can get notes from somebody. So go ahead and take a 15-minute break and then come back and we will finish this. Unpause this. So for the next one, now we're doing the similarity like we did earlier today with the do now. So I'm looking for EQ. That's where my eye always goes when I'm setting these up, is what, where the question mark or X is. And EQ is the first and the last, correct? So I start with my X on top because that's where the question mark was. We didn't? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll back up. I'm going to add these two together and set it equal to the outside angle. This is called the exterior angle theorem. So it's going to be 4x plus 15 plus 4x minus 7 has to equal 104. So you're going to combine your like terms. 4x and 4x is 8x. A positive 15 minus 7 is a plus 8 is equal to 104. I'm going to subtract 8 on both sides. 8x equals what? 96, and then divide by 8. Yep. And in this case, because I always look to make sure I'm answering everything, all I had to do is self-correct, so I'm good. And then on this side, it's very similar. It's just going to be 16 plus 11x has to equal 14x minus 8. I have variables on both sides here. So I'm going to bring my variables. I deal with the variables first. I like to keep my variables positive. So I get 16 is equal to 3x minus 8. I'm going to add 8 to both sides. I get 3x is equal to 24. And then I divide by 3. X is equal to 8. How are we on those? Good? Okay. So then here, the question mark was at EQ. I always go towards where the variable is. EQ is on the second triangle. And I'm doing the first and last for QE or EQ because that means the same thing. So over here, my first and last is going to be QS. So QS is 156. That has to equal, I go where the X was originally. I'm going to look at the 54 because I haven't used that one yet, and that's FQ. FQ are the first two letters. So then underneath would be QR, which is 117. Now you cross multiply. So you multiply these two, and that's 117x equals, and then you multiply these two. What is 156 times 54? 8. And then I divide by 117. And x is equal to 72. I'm over here and I see, here's my x, which is AB. AB is the first two letters. So I'm going to put X over and then QR. QR is 13. That has to equal the, over on this side, I have to come from this triangle because that's where my X was. That's where I started with. And that's CB or BC, and that's 108. And those are the second two. So RS would go under here, which is 12. And you cross multiply. So 12x has to equal, what is 13 times 108? 1404. And then divide by 12. X is equal to, so over here, here's my X, where that question mark is. And I'm going to place TC over the same side here, but of the larger one. So this would be X over 90 is equal to, because I started with the small triangle, here's 36, 36 over 120. I'm not using 42 over 140. I could if I wanted to replace this one with 42 over 140, but I only need one set. So I'm going to, you can have these. Go ahead. I'm going to multiply to both of these. So it's 120x has to equal, what's 90 times 36? Uh-oh. Here, I'll give you my secret good stash. Puffs. Or Kleenex.
I'll put this here to remind you.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't give those out. Because I bring my own tissue. Isn't that sad?
I would do the same thing.
I
Those angels are horrible.
know. So is X equal? 27. Okay. So, these are Pythagorean theorem word problems. I should have put a similarity word problem on there. And I should have put parallel lines and transversals because we did those on Thursday, but I didn't want to make the test too long. Okay, a ladder that is 15 feet long is leaning on a wall with the bottom of the ladder 4 feet away from the wall, right? So if this is my wall, this would have to be the ladder, correct? And I make a right triangle because you hope that this isn't the Leaning Tower of Pisa, that your wall and the ground is nice and even. That's not always the case, but that's what we're hoping here. Okay, so where does the 15 go? The hypotenuse. This is your 15 because this is the ladder. It's leaning against the wall. You're 4 feet from the wall, so that if here's the wall and the base of the ladder is 4 feet away, your 4 goes here. Or up the wall will the top of the ladder lay. So I'm looking for this right here, right? I'm looking for this. I'll call this, because I know I'm using Pythagorean theorem, I'll call that B. So you're going to use a squared plus b squared has to equal c squared. Oh, c squared. So I'm going to do 4 squared plus b squared has to equal 15 squared. 16 plus b squared has to equal what, 225? You subtract 16. B squared is equal to 209. And then you have to take the square root of 209. What's the square root of 14.4? 4 or 5? 5? 14.5. And that would be feet. Okay. Boop, boop, boop. Lynn is going for a walk. Here's her house. Okay. So Lynn leaves home and walks 4 blocks directly north. Oh, I didn't give myself enough room. Let me redo that. Here, because I'm going north. So I'm going, if this is my starting place, I'm going 4 blocks north, right? And then turns and walks 8 blocks east. 8, right? And then they want to know, how far is Lynn from her home? Right? Now, so I would say that this is C here, right? So I would label this as A and this is B. So 4 squared plus 8 squared has to equal C squared. 16 plus 64 has to equal C squared. I'm going to add those two together, which is what, 80 equals C squared. And then you're going to take the square root of both sides. C is equal to 8.9 blocks. Be careful because I may give you on your test, I may give you the hypotenuse and you have to find a leg. Just be careful. Don't assume that the word problems are going to be exactly the same. Is that it? Oh, nice. Okay. So,